Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Doctor of What YouTube channel. Today I wanted to just do a little quick review and quick discussion of the latest 3 books that I have been reading. I have loved books and reading for a really long time, but then sort of a PhD involves a lot of scientific reading. So for basically 4 years during my PhD, I didn't really read much at all apart from science and psychology. So since finishing my PhD, I've been really excited to get back into reading and reading a range of different books. So on my blog, I do a little review of the books that I read, but I just wanted to, be able to do a video and talk about them a little bit more as well. So these are the 3 books that I have finished most recently. The first one that I read is Any Ordinary Day by Leigh. So this book I picked up quite a while ago. I actually went into a bookshop. I just really wanted a book and didn't have much time. I sort of just rushed in, grabbed it, read the blurb and thought, yeah, cool, I want to read this one. It is a non-fiction, and Leigh is actually a journalist here in Australia. She works for SBS, I am pretty sure. I could check, but yeah. So she is a journalist, and you can really tell when you're reading this that she is a journalist. She has a really beautiful way of writing. The book is basically about Leigh interviewing and meeting people who have gone through really horrible times, which sounds really sad and depressing, and there are definitely parts of this book that are hard to read, but she writes about the world and really horrible things in such a genuine way, and the people that she meets and she discusses these topics with are so interesting. Some of them are really famous incidents that have occurred in Australia, and then others are probably lesser known incidents. And when I started reading this, I honestly didn't really know what to expect, but I really liked this book, and I think this was a book that I was meant to pick up and I was meant to read. It moved me and actually helped me in ways that I didn't know was possible for a book to do. I would definitely recommend it, particularly if you're a person who does like to read some non-fiction. And it's a very interesting book. It's very interesting in the way that it touches on really heavy things, but it also just talks about the beauty and the amazing aspects of life in the really simple ways as well. So the book that I read after the Leigh Any Ordinary Day was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This book, if you're into reading, you probably have seen it around. It has been topping, best of lists. It's been all over book bloggers and all over book clubs as well. That's probably the reason why I picked it up. I did hear really good things about it, and I must admit, going into reading it, I did have quite high expectations, which sometimes can be a problem when you're trying anything or reading anything new, if you have these really high expectations. But I think my expectations could have been literally astronomically high, and this book still would have exceeded them. This book is my favorite book now, I think. It'll take a while, I think, for another book to top it. The book is by Delia Owens. It's actually her fiction debut. She is a researcher. She has non-fiction books focusing a lot on sort of animal behavior and biology and nature. This is her first fiction. The book itself, or the story, it's quite hard to explain because it's so simple almost in what the storyline is. In part, it's a murder mystery, and I think that when you read the blurb, that's what definitely comes out, as that it is a murder mystery. But it's so much more than that. it's a story about one of the most interesting characters that I have ever met in a book. It's about her growing up in really interesting, unique and hard circumstances. It's about her having to experience growing up basically by herself and in a different time and, you know, quite a unique context, being down kind of in the swamps of the deep south of America. It's about her experiencing love and experiencing heartache. And I think that, sorry, mind the noise from Jensen the dog. I think that Owens' understanding of nature from a scientific point of view is beautifully portrayed in this particular book. She doesn't write about nature in a scientific, rigid way. She writes about it in a poetic, creative and artistic way. But her understanding and her really in-depth understanding of that is really apparent. I just don't even really think I have the right words to say how much this book literally moved me. It made me cry, it made me laugh, and it made me consider parts of humanity that maybe I hadn't previously considered or previously thought of. I loved this book from start to finish. I think it'll take a really long time for a book to get close to where this one sits now in my hierarchy of book favorites, and I would recommend this to basically anyone who enjoys reading any genres. Honestly, it is a masterpiece and people need to read it. Because I enjoyed Where the Crawdads Sing so much and I had a massive case of book hangover, I knew that any book that I would read next would probably struggle in terms of, you know, getting me interested. But I chose this book. When I read sort of the blurb, I thought that it seemed like it would be quite an easy read, and it was different from Where the Crawdads Sing. It was like an extremely different story, so I thought that that would be good. It is basically a story about a sugar daddy relationship gone wrong. And as I suspected when I first started reading it, I did find it really easy to read. It didn't necessarily hook me straight away, but it was well written and it was interesting enough that I did keep turning the pages. What I really liked about this book is I think it had the potential to be a really shallow book just about sort of sex and money and, you know, living in New York City, but it does have some really interesting characterizations, and I think it does kind of play on that line between love and hate and crimes of passion and all of that really interestingly and really delicately. So that was really something I really enjoyed with the book. As I said, I think it's unfair on this book because I did read it after Where the Crawdads Sing. It's not a book that I think I'll think about again in the future. It's not going to stick with me. It didn't make me have these kind of epiphanies like Where the Crawdads Sing did. But it is a really good book, so I would still definitely recommend it. If you like that little bit of the murder mystery and, you know, a bit about sex and money, then it is probably a great book for you. And it is really well written. I found it really easy to read. So yes, as I said, unfair on this book to compare it to Where the Crawdads Sing. So those are the 3 books that I have finished reading over about the last month. There's some more of my opinions about the books individually on the blog as well. As I said, I just really like reading and I like to share my thoughts on different books. I find that I really like reading other people's thoughts on books when I'm deciding to choose a book. And yeah, I have another 3 which are waiting on my bookshelf to be read, and then I will be able to talk about those. But I hope you all enjoy and spend some time reading.